Over the past several weeks, I have been involved in a deep dive into trying to resolve another physical problem that old age is bringing about. As I get older, aches and pains happen to afflict me even more. And in the last couple of years, I've been actively involved in looking at natural ways to reduce my blood pressure, and I have been quite successful. I've lost some weight. I've been involved in almost daily walking and activities. I've incorporated a fair amount of weight training, and things are working well. Things are working well. I've taken responsibility for my health, and I'm seeing wonderful results. But I'm also running into problems. And one of the biggest problems I'm dealing with right now is a ongoing nagging pain in my knee. According to my research, and actually according to some of the experts that I've gone to, a chiropractor, a doctor, a physiotherapist, I have a problem with my patella tendon. It's out of alignment. It is out of alignment. And what I've learned from the research and from a few of these experts is that my problem really is not with my knee. My problem is with my hip, and my problem is with my ankle. So if my hip and my ankle are out of alignment, my patella tendonitis issue is even worse because I have a rubbing in that patella tendon because my knee is moving out of alignment. So in order to resolve that issue, I have to take a look at resolving the problem with my hip and the problem with my foot and ankle. Well, I wear orthotics, and so I thought, well, that's taken care of, and I did just recently get a new prescription for my orthotics, so that should be fine. And over the past 5 or 6 months, I have been engaged in pretty extensive exercises to strengthen my hip flexors, my abductor, adductor muscles, and I've been doing some very consistent work on those areas, and I've been seeing some progress. But the pain still is there, and I've gotten to the point where it just is enough of a nagging issue that I know that something else needs to be done. So as I start to explore things even more, I'm looking at an issue with my ankle. Is it a problem with weak ankles? Is it a problem with my foot? Well, as I started to look at this issue, I have learned that the orthotics that most podiatrists and other doctors recommend may actually be contributing to my problem. And so as I start to explore this whole issue of my foot, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to go through another whole extensive process. I spent weeks, months exploring the whole issue about my knee, and I, determined that the hip was a part of the problem. And I'm almost there, but now I've got to take a look at my foot. And according to the literature, I think I might have to go to a zero drop type of a shoe and eliminate my orthotic. My orthotic actually could cause part of my alignment issue because my foot isn't working naturally. And so after starting to look at this issue over the last couple of weeks, I'm starting to recognize that, I might need to go in this direction. I'm currently standing without my orthotics in my shoes. I'm standing barefoot, and I've been doing some exercises. I've been doing some pressure point techniques. I've been doing a variety of things to start to work on my foot. But this is a lengthy, extensive process. And thinking about this process and talking about this process has led me to realize that this process that I'm agonizing over is extremely important for all people. So what is this process I'm talking about? Well, it involves extensive investigation, exploration. I have to look at all the ideas related to my foot, my knee, and how these are interrelated. So once I've started to investigate, I'm starting to explore, I then need to evaluate the literature to see what is accurate. Now, why don't I just go to the expert? Why don't I just trust my doctor? Why don't I just trust my chiropractor? Why don't I just trust my podiatrist? Because each one has a different perspective, and each one makes an argument in a different area. I actually need to use those experts' advice, go to the literature myself, and then make my own determination. And this is what I'm doing. So now I am looking at the literature. I'm finding out that, the problem probably is the fact that I've been using orthotic for almost the last 35 or 40 years. And I have to eliminate that orthotic because I need to actually take advantage of the natural alignment that my body has. And that the last little bit might be enough to actually resolve my issue with my knee. So now that I'm in this investigation, I'm in this evaluation and analysis mode, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm putting together exercises, I'm putting together routines, I'm putting together the types of shoes that I might need to look at. I'm putting together models of how long this is going to take. Well, guess what? I'm in the synthesis mode of my process. And once that synthesis mode really takes root, I can then start to create a plan of attack, a method, an approach. This process that I'm talking about is simply the higher order thinking process. It's all about exploration, investigation, evaluation, analysis, synthesis, and creation. Operating at that higher level is what we hope all of our students, our learners, will do at some point. It's the process they need to go through to be able to take ownership of the learning. It's a process that takes time. It's a process that you have to own. It's a process that you have to commit to. It's a process that takes a lot of work. The reason I'm talking about this process is that in the past several weeks, I've been listening to some amazing reflections that some of my applied digital learning students are giving me or sharing with me in their podcasts. In the final capstone course, they're reflecting on their whole learning journey. One of the most consistent comments I'm hearing in their podcasts and their reflections is that, yeah, we really should have trusted the process earlier or sooner. I wish I would have trusted the process sooner. I wish I wouldn't have been angry about having to move through this process. What is this process? Well, within the ADL program and within the work that I'm doing, I would argue the process is moving towards or adopting the learner's mindset. But let me break that down. It's really about changing your thinking about learning, changing your approach to learning, and then changing your learning environment. That's part of the process. Now, more specifically, the process that I referred to earlier with in dealing with my knee is really about higher order thinking. And here it is. You have to investigate and explore. On what you find, you have to start to evaluate and analyze where these ideas land, which means you've got to look at the literature, you've got to compare, you've got to contrast, you've got to look at a wide assortment of literature and ideas. You might have to read a few books, many articles. But with that exploration and the evaluation and the analysis, once you start to analyze what you need to do, you can start to make some decisions. That decision-making process is really about this synthesis. And once you start to synthesize all these ideas, looking at the evaluation, looking at that analysis, once you start to synthesize where you're planning to go, you can then create a strategy that will allow you to move forward and actually implement that. When you implement that strategy, then you can start to see the results of all your higher order thinking and the benefits of going through that process. This is what I encourage my graduate students to do in the ADL program. This is what I've been encouraging my boys to do as they've been growing up. And now as young men, this is what they do on a regular basis when they explore challenges in their lives. This is what I'm encouraging everyone to consider. We have to go through the process. We have to own the process. Why not just trust the experts? Well, there's a lot of experts with varying perspectives on the same idea. We're seeing this more than ever in this day and age. There are many different experts and many different perspectives. At some point, you have to develop a level of understanding where you become enough of an expert to actually make that evaluation and make that analysis so that you then can move into that synthesis and then create your own understanding of where you need to go with your ideas. It's all about higher order thinking. That's the process. Trusting the process, as many of my ADL students talked about, is really looking at that whole process of investigation, exploration, evaluation, analysis, synthesis, and creation. This is what I refer to as also the learner's mindset. And this is what we all need to do to be able to change and improve the world, one learner at a time. This is what we need to be able to do to be able to improve our lives. This is what I'm doing on a regular basis to improve my life and to improve my physical functioning. This is what I do when I look at creating new courses. This is what I do when I look at publishing my research. This is what we do if we want to perform at a higher order level of thinking. It's about trusting the process, but it's also about knowing what that process is. It's also a lot of work. as I started to explore the situation with my knee, as I started to take a look at my foot, part of me was going, oh my gosh, this is going to take a lot of time. Why does this have to take so much time? Well, it does. If you want to own your learning, if you want to own where you are going, if you want to take responsibility and really see the benefits of what you're planning to do, you have to own it. Yes, we can trust experts, but experts can only get us part of the way there. At some point, we have to become somewhat of an expert in similar areas. Not to the same extent as a medical doctor or a chiropractor, but we have to actually come to enough of an understanding to be able to solve a lot of our own problems in alignment with those experts, in conjunction with those experts, and in conjunction with the research that is available to all of us. We live in the most amazing time to be a learner. All the world's information is available to us in the palms of our hands. We can access the same literature that many experts access and that we never had access to before. While this is wonderful, it takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. I would encourage you to not just trust the experts, but trust yourself. Trust that process. Trust that process of investigation, exploration, evaluation, analysis, which leads to synthesis and then creation. You need to take control of your own learning and your own understanding if you want to make a difference in the world. Equally important, you need to share this with your learners so that they too can change their world one learner at a time.